International Business Council is one of the councils of the Chattanooga Chamber. We are part of the Chattanooga Chamber. Without them, we couldn't do anything. And the Chattanooga Chamber is sponsoring a trip to China. There's flyers on each of your tables, kind of orange and black, Destination China, talking about next year's trip. Now, this is next year, not 3 weeks from now, to Beijing, Shanghai, Suzhou, Hangzhou, and Wuxi. And I hope I got at least 2 out of 3 of those right. So if you're interested, please follow up on this. It's going to be a wonderful opportunity for us here in Chattanooga to expand our ties with China and vice versa. And now I'd like to introduce Elizabeth Rowland. Elizabeth Rowland, who is here with us from Nashville today, is the Executive Director of the Tennessee China Network. The Tennessee China Network educates and connects people and resources across Tennessee and China in order to strengthen Tennessee-China business ties and enhance bilateral trade and investment. And as Anton said, they are co-hosting this event with us today. And so without anything further, I give you Elizabeth Rowland.
Thank you, Marty. I believe we're going to have our sponsor say a couple words, right? Janice, would you like to come up first and after you finish chewing?
I'd be happy to. Excuse me. Good morning.
Good morning.
And please forgive if I have bagel in my. I was not prepared, so sorry. Thank you very much. I won't take much of the time because I want to get to the panel discussion as much as the rest of you. But just to build on what my introduction, the Tennessee Foreign Language Institute has been around for many years. Started as a center of excellence toward language learning, but decided to respond to our changing demography in the state of Tennessee and to be very proactive in economic and community development. So we meet the needs of business, supporting economic and community development with translation and interpretation services, cultural awareness programs, and most recently, adding to the services that we provide English classes for new arrivals. For the business professional, for refugees, immigrants, we realize how important it is to assimilate and to become an active participant in the community, business community, and social community as well. So we run the full spectrum. We're based in Nashville, but we have a contingent of interpreters and translators and educators throughout the state. So we're here to provide whatever service we can help. We always want to collaborate with other agencies and entities who are providing the similar services. So it's a non-competitive type service that we provide. We're just here to hopefully better our entire state's economic picture. So if you have questions for me, I'll be here. I have lots of material and love to talk to you after the presentation. Thank you very much.
Thanks again, Janice and Tennessee Foreign Language Institute. And thanks, Marty, for the kind introductions. Where did you go?
Over here.
Oh.
Sorry.
Welcome everybody to the event today. I'm so glad to see so many people here. Just as a reminder, I want to let everyone know that not everyone here is a native English speaker, so please speak slowly and clearly as you're asking your questions and as you're speaking on the panel, so we make sure that everybody can understand. I'm very honored that the International Business Council has welcomed Tennessee China Network to co-host this event. This is our first event co-hosted together, and I'm looking forward to more in the future. And I just recently found out that the IBC board voted for the Tennessee China Network to be a strategic partner, so I'm really looking forward to that connection as well. I, in particular, want to thank the people that helped organize this event. We had much of a team effort in this, and thank you to Eric Kruger, Lulu Copeland, Yvette Rios, Anton Dominchuk, did I say your name right? And Honor Moni at the Chamber. So, Marty introduced Tennessee China Network a little bit. I just wanted to say a little bit more about it for those of you that aren't familiar with the organization. We have 3 pillars to the organization. One is events, educational ones like this, as well as networking event happy hours. We've had 2 of those here in Chattanooga. The other type of event, or the other second pillar is our blog and newsletter. That's to keep people updated with what's going on in Tennessee related to Tennessee China business. And you can sign up for the newsletter outside on the table. And then the third pillar of the organization is the resources page online. You can go there to find out what Chinese companies have invested in Tennessee. The Tennessee companies that have invested in China, we're actually in the process of researching that section. We mentioned the chambers, the Chinese associations across Tennessee, and many other resources. So feel free to check that out. I also wanted to mention that Lulu Copeland, who is a very active IBC member here, is also the new board chair for Tennessee China Network. So thanks, Lulu, for your dedication. There's also opportunities for sponsoring Tennessee China Network out on the table if you'd like to take a look. Before we get started, I'd like to learn about why everyone is here today. So if you're an exporter that would like to export to China, can you raise your hands? Either an exporter currently exporting or hoping to export. Okay. And sir, what company are you with?
McKee Foods.
Oh, you're with McKee also. Okay, well you're going to be on the panel, so I'll ask you back there. What company are you with?
I'm independent right now, but I've worked for big corporations here in the area, exporting rehab equipment and exporting flooring products.
Okay, great.
So currently independent, not working for anyone.
And what did you hope to get out of the panel today?
Just to contribute some of expertise and also to just learn to see what's going on to fortify our community. And the expansion of global business is vital for my generation, my future generation to work together.
Great, thanks a lot. What about investment? Who here is interested in attracting Chinese investment to Chattanooga? I see several folks in the back. Did one of you want to say what you hope to get out of this event tonight?
Sure.
Or this morning, I mean?
Yeah, I just moved back to America from Shanghai, where I lived for 3 years, working and investing in China, mostly in technology firms, angel investment, and looking at how now that I live back in America, I can be focused in the Southeast U.S. versus West Coast where I was before, and see what's happening in the community and how I can leverage a network of investment professionals that I know here, as well as in the East in China, in Greater China.
Great, excellent. What about people interested in jobs at Chinese companies or doing business with China? I know we have at least two groups of students here. Any of you students want to say what you'd like to get out of this event? Don't be shy. He's looking at you. All right, I want this. So there's a lot of different reasons why it's important to strengthen the Chattanooga-China relationship. Exporting, importing, investment, creating jobs right here in Tennessee. Everyone knows that China has over 1.3 billion people. Everybody knows that China is a huge market. Let me tell you a few things maybe not everyone knows quite yet, though. On the investment side, from a base of almost zero not long ago, China is now the world's third largest outbound foreign direct investor, only behind the US and Japan. China has recently made reforms in its outbound foreign direct investment regulations that make it easier for Chinese companies to invest overseas. And that, combined with the Chinese economy's slowdown recently, and a few other factors, is dramatically increasing Chinese investment overseas. The first half of this year alone, Chinese investment globally, outbound investment globally, has increased by 47%. That's a lot. So how does Tennessee fit into this? Well, according to Tennessee China Network's ongoing research, there are 12 Chinese companies, both mainland, Hong Kong, and Taiwanese invested in Tennessee right now. This research is still ongoing though, and different people measure these numbers, the companies' investments differently. According to the ECB Directory of Foreign-Owned Establishments that was released in April, there are 21. That is including mainland Hong Kong and Taiwan. Actually 9 from Taiwan, so many of which I didn't know were here, so it was very exciting to learn about that. And according to Rhodium Group, there are 14, so everyone measures that differently. But let's compare that to Georgia and South Carolina, which have 34 Chinese companies. Or North Carolina and Virginia. North Carolina has 54, Virginia has 26. And let's compare that to Japan in Tennessee. Japan has 174 companies in Tennessee. The opportunity, China isn't even in the top 10 of foreign investors in Tennessee right now. But the opportunity is huge, as you can see from China's outbound investment growth in the past few years. And in fact, 3 Chinese companies have invested in East Tennessee just this year, 2 of which are in this room represented right now. We have Yanfeng, Mr. Zhu here on our panel, and we also have representatives from Innovate Manufacturing back here, Mr. David Yang and Jimmy Yin. So please feel free to introduce yourself after. And 欢迎来天南西州. They don't speak English, so you can work with Bob to communicate with him if you'd like to say hi. So on the trade side, quickly, did you all know what do you think are the top exporters with for Tennessee? What countries do we export to the most? Anyone have a guess? Well, China is actually the 3rd largest export destination for Tennessee products. I don't think a lot of people realize that. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, chemicals, transportation equipment, computer and electronics products, and other manufactured commodities are the top exports to China from Tennessee. But there's areas for potential growth. Medical devices and healthcare, we're really strong in that here in Tennessee, and it's in high demand in China. Same with automotive, aviation, high-tech manufacturing. As China's economy continues to grow, so does the middle class, and all of these opportunities for exports will only get stronger. But I'm going to let one of our panelists, Leslie, talk more about that from Tennessee Trade. So let's get on to this now. I will introduce our panel first quickly, and then I'll let them do some short 5 to 7 minute presentations. Then after that, we'll have a bit of Q&A, first with some moderated questions. So first we'll have speak Charles Wood. He's Vice President with the Chamber here for Economic Development. And he's the lead recruiter for the Chamber and helped to recruit Yanfeng here to Chattanooga. Then we'll have Leslie Alexander speak. She's the International Director for Tennessee Department of Economic and Community Development. She's in charge of the Tennessee Trade promotion efforts. Third, we'll have Mr. Zhu, Tom Zhu, speak from Yanfeng. He is the project manager of Yanfeng Automotive Interiors facility here in Chattanooga, and he's going to talk about Yanfeng's investment here and the challenges and opportunities they faced. And finally, but not least, of course, we have Chris McKee from McKee Foods. He's Executive Vice President for Marketing and Sales at McKee Foods, and they're starting to enter the China market, and so he's going to tell us about their opportunities and challenges there. With that, Mr. Wood.
Good morning, everyone.
You can stand or sit, whatever you like.
You know what, I'm here between Chris and Anton, so I'm going to stay sitting, which is kind of nice. Thank you very much. Sorry about that. And really, first thing I'd say is I want to thank the International Business Council here. So we've done a number of things on recruitment side, as many people know, I think in the room, that's a big part of what the chamber does, but there's a lot more to that. And so the IBC is actually a big part of kind of how the chamber looks at our growing international community here, right? So and how many languages do we have in IBC?
I believe it's, an IBC, it's,
Yeah.
we haven't counted, I know there's 76 or so.
Okay. So 76 different languages in Chattanooga. I was thinking it was somewhere in the 20 range, 20 different languages spoken just by IBC members. So we've become a very international community in a relatively short period of time as communities go. And so I think that the cultural connectivity that we have as a community, and a relatively small community, is very important for us. Things are global, right? I mean, this is a global world, and while most large communities try and work very hard to attract or support trade internationally, for a community with basically 500,000 people in the metro, we've been phenomenally successful at it. And part of the reason for that is kind of the welcoming dynamic that we have in the community, right? You can find people who speak your language, you can find people who want to help you as you get situated in the community, and you can find opportunities for education and things like that. Of course, we got Macaulay and Baylor here as well. But the IBC connectivity is a big part of what we do, and so that's very important from the chamber perspective, as really kind of a welcoming group that can bring people here from all over the world. And so I don't want to minimize the cultural dynamic. People move to places they feel comfortable in, right? And so one of the ways that people feel comfortable is you speak their language. You understand cultural differences, and you respect them, and then you honor them. And so for Chattanooga, it makes my job in recruiting new companies a lot easier when we have a group like this. So I would say this is intentional, and it comes from a lot of work from volunteers that are involved in IBC. So that's the first thing I would say. We're fortunate to leverage kind of Chattanooga's culture, and we have a great culture here, and we're a very welcoming community. But it takes a broad base of community support to be successful. Because if a company comes in and they're not successful, then the word gets out, right? So that's the first thing I'd say. And I'm the lead recruiter, so we do spend a lot of time on bringing new business in, which is important, right? You have companies transition over time, and so you need new blood, right? Farley's and Sathers has had, or something before them, has had people working in Chattanooga for almost a century. The company's not here anymore. So you have to backfill, right? And that's important. Companies that are international companies, they tend to pay very good wages. They support export activity, which is important for the local economy, right? We want companies like McKee and Yanfen that are going to export a product or service outside of the market, and they bring new money back in, right? That's how you grow the economy. And so that's very critical for us. With Yanfen, this is a great opportunity for Chattanooga to have a Chinese company, really one of the few in the state. And we want to make sure that they're successful here, because the opportunity is that you grow more of that. And this is a country that is, I would say, if you look at kind of U.S. history, right? If you look back into the 1800s, that's really where China is. I mean, the reality is you've got a 100-year window of what could be probably the most substantial growth the world has ever seen. And so if you think about the companies that were born and created in the U.S., right? General Electric, there's a good example. There's potential for massive companies that are going to make changes that will be felt that we can't imagine, that will probably be based in China. And so making sure that Chattanooga is at least, one of the options for them to consider, that they know about and they feel comfortable with, is a great thing. And the other side of that is the export side. And I don't want to minimize that, because even though I'm kind of the recruiter, the reality is there's 1 billion plus people in China. Over the next 50 to 100 years, there'll be another billion, right? So the growth curve in Asia is well over 1 billion. And so there's a long-term growth opportunity there for, not just for U.S. companies, but for Chattanooga companies. And so it doesn't really matter if you sell software, if you sell Sunbelt Bakery, if you're making Aztec road building equipment, or you're making cars. It doesn't matter. The opportunity's there, and making sure that that Chattanooga's kind of understand the opportunity, they understand the cultural differences. So that's a big part of kind of the chamber's effort, and so I wanted to make that clear. And that's really the reason for the trip next fall, is that we try and get Chattanoogans to get a better understanding culturally of the country as well as the economic opportunities that are out there. If you're not comfortable and you don't have at least a small understanding of the culture, it's going to be a lot harder to be successful doing business there. And our CEO at the Chamber, Bill Kilbride, actually helped set up some plants in China for Mohawk when he was an executive there. And it's interesting talking to him about that process. This is a big learning experience, and so we want to make sure that our community leaders and our business leaders have the opportunity to learn about it. So that's why we're doing that. So I would say this is an intentional process. I would say in working with Yanfeng, one of the things that we did learn is there are partners out there that are working with Japanese companies to help them. So we actually spent most of our time not with the company on the front end, but with an accounting firm out of Michigan that spends a lot of time. They work with, I think, 30 or so different Chinese companies, and they help them with either investment in the U.S. or business connections in the U.S. or business acquisition opportunities in the U.S. One of the easiest ways to get established is to acquire another company that's already in business, because then you don't have to go out and hire, right? You already have employees at that point, you already have customers, and then you can grow from there. So looking for opportunities like that will kind of help support, help find that support network for those companies, and then help make sure that Chattanooga is on the radar screen is really important. So with that, is Chris next? I don't know who's next after that.
Leslie. That was perfect timing. Good job.
I'm Leslie Alexander. I'm the International Director for the State of Tennessee, seated at the Department of Economic and Community Development. And I'll put off what Charles was saying. We work on foreign direct investment and trade, so bilateral trade. And Tennessee Foreign Language Institute is one of our partners. Yvette Rios is here with the Tennessee Small Business Development Council. We work with Commercial Services, which the East Tennessee seat is in Knoxville. But with foreign direct investment, as Charles was saying, we look at China as a huge opportunity. We have, right now we have a request for information out there for new consultants. And as he said, there's a group in Michigan, an accounting firm that they work with. China is such a growing and burgeoning environment right now that it's hard to really put your hand on a place. And so the state is actually looking at how many consultants can we find to help us do that foreign direct investment and bring businesses to Tennessee. As Elizabeth said, Japan is we are the second state in the country for Japanese investment. And so if you look at the geography and the reason that happened, China's an enormous country with a lot of moving pieces and parts. And so as we look as a state at opportunities for having Chinese companies invest in Tennessee, we have to look at that geographical line. And I think that's a very important thing to think about as you're looking at expanding business, getting involved in business. What is it that is our similarity with the community, with the culture, and how do we have those opportunities? From a trade perspective, which is another component of what we do at the state, we have a brand called Tennessee Trade, which we're trying to make a little quieter now. We do help small, medium-sized businesses export, and China has been one of our target locations. We've been very successful, and you'll hear from Chris about some of the success that we've had there. But the state's efforts at exporting goods from Tennessee, made in Tennessee, Jack Daniels being one of our largest exporters, but also McKee Foods being a very successful exporter and China being a new market for that product. We were able, working with Yvette and here at the Chamber last February, and meeting with Raymond, we were able to talk about how can we help McKee Foods get into a new market. And so in that regard, the state acts as that facilitator. what can we do to help small, medium-sized businesses and large businesses open their doors to expand their productivity, get into new markets, build their business, and have a return on that investment. And so that's what the international group does here in Tennessee at the state level. And we also work with the federal counterparts and with our chambers. And so again, back to working with Charles and being at the same place where we were in the spring of last year as well with Select USA, which is the federal counterpart, which helps build business and foreign direct investment. So what I see as the big picture, especially looking at China, is how do we close that loop? How do we bring Chinese investors into Tennessee? And then how do we help them grow their business and export those products back out to the world? So I'm happy to talk about that more, but I think it's most important to look at our businesses and hear from them today. So thank you, Elizabeth, for the opportunity.
Thanks, Leslie. Also perfect timing. Now that we've looked at the picture from the Chattanooga level at the chamber and the state level, both with investment and exports, we're going to look at the company level and hear from Tom Ju at Yanfeng. Yes.
大家早上好。Good. Yeah, good morning, everybody. 大家中秋节好。Happy Beautiful Festival. That's this weekend. I'm so happy to meet everybody here and appreciate the chance International Business Council and Tennessee China Network offer me this opportunity to introduce our company. And before my presentation, I have two questions. First question, who knows Yanfeng? Please raise hand. Maybe 20%. Who knows Johnson Control? Okay, it's more than 80%. That's great. So I think that's a great time for me to introduce our company because it's a new joint venture between Yanfeng and Johnson Control. Okay, I will start my presentation. So this is my agenda. Introduce my company and also introduce the Chattanooga plant and talk about some experience in the past 5 years. So this is key facts from automotive interior. We build interiors, the car interiors. So this is a joint venture between Johnson and Yanfeng. This joint venture just happened in July this year. And if you look at it, both companies all has a long history of his industry, right? And maybe somebody will ask why Johnson Control and Yanfeng can merge together. Yeah, because I can tell you, everybody, because of the long relationship between Yanfeng and Johnson Control. There is a joint venture seating company in China market between Yanfeng and the Johnson Control. It's about 15 years. So this seating company in China market is the biggest seating company, market share about 35%. So that's a long relationship between two companies. Yeah, so that's and if you look at both companies, we are more focused on the China market, Asian market, and of course we built our USA footprint 5 years ago. And the Johnson Control definitely is very strong with his interior business in globally, especially North America and Europe. Yeah. So that's a win-win solution we try to merge together. So this is the global face of this company, totally 90 plus global locations. So that's about more than 80 manufacturing sites and more, some headquarters, some technical sites, and covers 17 countries and 28,000 employees total. And we say that's a seamless global network. Yeah. And our key products, including the industry panel. The industry panel, also called dashboard, right? And we have the cockpit system. Cockpit system, that means in the dashboard instrument panel, we install all those electronic parts or AC and the steering wheel, all parts we assemble together and ship it to the customer. They just screw into the vehicle body. Yes, so we call cockpit system. And the door panel, the door tray, and the floor console, and also overhead console. And except for those things, we also do something like decorative tray, hard tray in the vehicle. Okay, we solely focus on the automotive interior and the best-in-class product portfolio. And more than 90 locations, 17 countries, and we do have an experienced team of the industry experts. This is our company's vision, mission, and value. I think here I want to emphasize we call the vision, the better life on board, slow the superior automotive interior solutions. We want the perfect interior can give you a better life. Because interior you can touch, you can feel, right? And also I want to emphasize here our value. So if you look at the value, C spreads. We put a C means customer. Maybe some company will put a C cost, but we see customer. Customer is our essential. And we have the striving team, we have the people, we have the innovation and respect, integrity, teamwork, sustainability. So sustainability also is very important, right? Okay, so this is our recent US investment in the United States. In 2011, we launched a new business in the Michigan, Harrison, Michigan. So it's about a $57 million investment and create more than 500 jobs out there. In 2014, we launched some new business in the Kansas City, Missouri. It's a $48 million investment, more than 500 great jobs, and supported the GM Fairfax plant. And actually, we got the whole interior for the new generation Malibu. And now, should we look at $55 million investment. We will create more than 300 jobs for this city and support our customer. Launch end of next year. So location of this site, it's a Bonnechere Drive. Yeah, it's very close to the Volkswagen, just 2.5 miles away. And the building, current building is a warehouse, and we're leasing the building from the landlord, who is a Taiwanese, but we have good relationship. And totally more than 200,000 square feet. We will retrofit the whole building to be the manufacturing site. Yeah. And so the launch time will be 2016, next year, and we put a lot of technology to this site, manufacturing technology, molding, slush skin, forming, laser scarring, welding, assembly. Now we also talk about sequence delivery, everything. Last page. We do have a lot of experience in the market, in the USA market, and because we are on the car industry, maybe our experience is more focused on the car industry. Yeah, I don't know if can be suitable for other industry. I don't know. Anyway, the first experience is the customer satisfaction. This is always our top priority. And we provide technical support, we provide some emergency support, and provide all kinds of type of service to our customer as needed. And be professional, respond quickly, and be flexible. So this, if you look at those words, maybe a little bit different from some local supplier. And also we have a very strong management team. That's very important because we wanted the management to be more aggressive, to help the company to launch the program. Yeah. And we also have some global customer managers and the customer relationship, like for example, like the GM, like the Volkswagen, right? And we do have a lot of business in China market, and sometimes customer will launch the vehicle in those regions then we can bring a lot of benefits to the customer, right? Save a lot of cost for the customer. For example, the developing cost, okay, we just pay one time. Yeah, we launch 2 regions. And cost control, competitive for the yen phone, that's very important. Yeah. If the cost is more, you have no, compare with some local America competitive, if the cost is cannot be so honest. Yeah. So we must control that. Then also talk about resource synergy with China. Yeah, we bring, because of culture difference, we try to be a local company, but still some different culture. So sometimes we still need bring some resource from China support here, like Chattanooga, right? And we launched a huge vehicle interior. So we do have a plan to bring some resource from China to be a short-term support. Yeah. And then the last one is the diversity, culture, and momentum. So we try to be a local American company, yeah. But I know from different nations, different cultures, so we are we see multi-culture company now. And it's a good culture to be, how to say, it's really hard to, yeah, we try to bring more talent to this company, you know. So this culture is very important. So when you ask a question for those schools who are interested to join the Chinese company, nobody raised hand. Yeah, so I tell you, this is not a Chinese company. This is a global company. We do have different cultures. Okay, welcome everyone.
Thank you, that's very impressive. And I think probably it was more shyness than not willingness to work at a Chinese company, but I think it's interesting. You're talking about the cultural diversity of your company, and Chattanooga and the International Business Council also extremely diverse, and so I think it's a good match. All right, now we'll have Mr. McKee with McKee Foods.
Sure. Thank you, Elizabeth. Good morning, everyone. So I'm really just humbled to be here. As we've had the discussion this morning, I've been looking over the crowd. I've been assessing you. You don't know that, right? And it's pretty intimidating. I mean, I see people with international business experience already. I see people from academia. I see Baylor and Macaulay students that didn't pick the easy language, right? Yeah, you picked the hard language. So I'm really humbled. I feel like that when I look at the room, I think it's safe to say that I know more about selling Little Debbie's than anyone in this room. But maybe not eating, as Charles says, but for international business and in China, I feel like that most of you know way more than I do about these topics. But having said that, Elizabeth invited me to be on this panel. I will share a little bit about our journey. And so why are we interested in China? Well, Charles kind of started out with the number 1.4. 1.4 is the number. That's the number we focus on. 1.4 billion people. Anyone that makes a product, anyone that offers a service is intrigued with the sheer quantity of consumers in China. Every time I talk to people about China, I focus in on the fact that if we were to be able to engage 1/5 of their population, it's equivalent to nearly the full U.S. population. So that is what motivates me about China. The economic power, they're on pace now in 2026, 2025, some people think that they will have a larger economy than the U.S. So economic growth, we all know about the middle class in China. We know that the middle class is thriving and growing, and so it's becoming a consumer market today. So these are the reasons that McKee Foods are looking for business in China. You might say, well, if food is an odd thing to ship because you have all that shipping and expense, but the Chinese are interested in Western brands, and also they have had challenges in their food safety in China, and so there's interest from at least a part of the population in Western brands. And so those are some of the things that encourage us to think about the Chinese market, even a bakery in Chattanooga. So what are some of the cons, the negatives about or the challenges is the cuisine cultures are very different. And I met Raymond Liu a few years ago, and we are working together. And he began teaching me about the culture of China, and he spent a lot of time with me on the cuisines because it's very different. And so that's a challenging thing for us to consider. It's a long ways away, and so when you're shipping a food product, unlike Tom has shared with us with components or more, of course you're making locally, but when you think about shipping expensive products, your shipping cost as a percent of the total revenue is lower. So when you ship food, food is a low value per pound product, and so shipping is a daunting thing to think about. You have shelf life issues, you have degradation of food as it ships over by sea. So these are the things we think about. And certainly the differences of dealing with the government in China are very different than dealing with the situation here in the United States. These are some of the challenges we think about. So just to share briefly about our current direction and where we're at right now is we've been doing networking. It's been very helpful. Tea and Trade has been helpful. The Sister City program has been helpful. And we've been networking, we've been visiting, we've been trying to learn more about the culture, about the cuisines. We fairly early discounted Little Debbie as the brand to take to China. Most of you know Little Debbie. It's our big brand. We also have another brand, our little brand. Sorry, Kenny, some about brand managers here. This is a little brand, $100 million, okay? So the Little Debbie is like $1 billion, this is like a $100 million brand. But we're considering Sunbelt Bakery for a couple of reasons. Number one, the Chinese consumer is interested in health. And as the middle class explodes there, you can't really relate their middle class today like our middle class in the 40s and 50s because they're much more educated. You have the internet, you have more knowledge, and they're interested in health. And so this is a grain-based product. Secondly, this product holds up better in shelf life, and it's less fragile. So Little Debbie, the concerns with Little Debbie is it's very sweet. And after being 2 weeks in China with Raymond and eating the Chinese cuisine, I learned that yes, they don't eat a lot of sweet and goo. You know, they don't have a lot of the cream and the heavy sweet things. So you've convinced me, Raymond. Finally, their bakery snacks are much less sweet. So these are some of the reasons we're looking at Sunbelt Bakery. Better for you, longer shelf life, and less sweet. So I have a few slides here I'm going to show just in the last couple of minutes here. We did take a trip to China. The purpose of our trip was we attended a trade show in Shanghai, and it was a SIAL trade show, one of the largest consumer food trade shows in China. We didn't know what to expect. We didn't know if the Chinese consumer would like granola bars. We also sampled granola cereal. And we were quite pleased by the reaction. You know, we thought we might get crickets chirping at our booth, right? We didn't know. We could have been sitting there playing solitaire. We just didn't know what to expect. But we had a lot of interest and folks coming by. So we worked that trade show over there. We visited cities in southern China, primarily Guangzhou, Dongguan, Shenzhen. We went to Hong Kong as well. And then we went up north and finished off, or east and finished off at the trade show. In Shanghai. We also visited Wuxi. We appreciate Bob Edwards put us in touch with the Sister City program, and that opened doors for us in Wuxi. A couple other slides of note. We also visited with Walmart in China. Walmart has a big presence in China, and they were very helpful. We met with their logistics people, very helpful in helping us navigate how to get our product over there into the marketplace. The other purpose of our this is a visit in Wuxi, which I attribute our ability to tour sites in Wuxi exclusively because of the Sister City program. We agreed to host a Wuxi delegation about a year ago, June, and that was quite a high-level delegation. I believe the former mayor of Wuxi was there. Isn't that correct? And some of you haven't heard of Wuxi. You think, well, that's just a little city outside of Shanghai. But you know what? Wuxi's bigger than Atlanta. And so you got to think about, that's like the mayor of Atlanta coming up here. And that's a big deal. So we hosted them. One of the members of the delegation was an agricultural minister. And so they were interested in McKee Foods, and so we were able to set up a trip to the ADM station in Tyner and show them the transloading station there where they bring in corn syrups and flours and sugars and such and transload them. And so we had a great day with them, and that opened doors for us. So we had an excellent meeting with some government officials in Wuxi, and that's what that picture is. The other reason I wanted to go to China that was really important for me is to step foot into the retail environment in China, because you can read reports, you can talk to people, but I didn't feel confident in my understanding of the retail market until I visited these places. The China retail market is quite similar to to United States. The brands you see are different, and the meat section is very different. For Chinese, they think fresh means alive. And I really agree with them, because that's awesome. You don't need to worry about how long that chicken's been sitting around the supermarket. So those things are different, but other than that, they have C-stores, they have supermarkets, they have Walmarts, they have club stores, very similar. And so we stepped foot in that to get an understanding of that. And I just have 2 more slides, and my time is just about up. So the trade show went well. We appreciate being able to hire excellent translators, and TN Trade helped us with that. And we are looking forward now. That picture has nothing to do with anything except it's the best photograph I took in China. So thank you very much for your time. Look forward to the Q&A section.
Thanks so much, everybody. That was extremely interesting. So to start off the questions and answers, since you had the mic last, we'll go with you first, if that's okay. Can you talk a little bit more about how TN Trade and Leslie's part of the government helped your company, and how that process went, and what advice you would have for other companies that want to also access that?
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth. Just briefly, TN Trade was very helpful to us. And keep in mind, too, that we started from this, 0. Other than Raymond, working with our company, we had 0 knowledge of China, of export, of the culture. TN Trade provided at least a full week, I think it was 40 hours worth of prep work for our trip to China. They provided really an excellent overview of the market, which was outstanding, kind of a general high-level overview of the snack food market, and especially granola bar market in China. They provided that for us, which was very well written. And they also helped us on the ground over there with getting translators at the trade show, and they were excellent. We needed a one-to-one translator-McKee employee relationship over there, because you basically, you can't function without being able to speak the language, so that was outstanding. So these are some of the things. We also had help from the federal office, the ATO office in various cities in China. But TN Trade was very helpful. We really appreciate it, Leslie, sorry.
Would you like to add on to that at all?
And thank you, Chris, I appreciate that. And Raymond, thank you for being willing to take that risk, because so much of it really is about taking that plunge into the unknown pool of going into a new market, especially one as huge as China. So the TN Trade program, as Chris was saying, is it's a 4-year-old program, really, and I would say its 4th year. It had a year of creation, a year of development, and then 2 years of promotion. And what we're doing now is, and I think Raymond, you can probably speak to this as well as Chris, is we realized with the McKee efforts that we were a little bit duplicitous as well with our services, but we also realized that we've made some really killer relationships, some great relationships with service providers in China. So the consulting firm that helped with McKee also works with the commercial services, which is at the embassy in Beijing. And so along with that, along with our sister state relationship we have with Shangji, where we're bringing in a delegation from the government, we were able to really look at our relationship with China critically and say, wow, we have a lot more going on here than we thought. And as Elizabeth and I have talked about, we all have different metrics on how many Chinese companies are here, how much investment from Tennessee goes to China. So with Tennessee Trade, we're able to identify the service providers in China. And now beyond just that one consulting firm that provided the translation support, we've also realized we've built out an entire network throughout the country. So depending on where you are, be it down in Hong Kong, be it up in Beijing, be it over on the west side, we have support network, a web that we've built in China as well as the rest of the world. But in China specifically, because it is such an enormous country and there's so much opportunity there, from the food products to medical devices to automotive. And so we really have established a good presence there. So thank you, Elizabeth.
Great. I want to stick with you real quick with the next question. Can you talk about service providers in China? How can local service providers and organizations here in Chattanooga and the rest of Tennessee contribute to ECD's and Tennessee Trade's export and investment promotion efforts?
You're getting your exercise today. So, as I briefly talked about a moment ago, we started Tennessee Trade in this administration under Commissioner Haggerty. We now have Randy Boyd, who has a company called PetSafe, which you all may be familiar with, which is the electric fences for pets. He actually has over 500 different devices in his portfolio, and they are also distributed in China. So what he asked us to do was take that Tennessee Trade brand and make it work for the rest of the state. So what we're doing now, rather than having a few export promotion people based in Nashville talking about specific markets, we were representing China, the European Union, and Mexico. We now are looking at, and this is news for Yvette, I haven't talked with her about it, but I got approval just a couple weeks ago to start giving grants to particular locations. And so for the Tennessee Trade Program, what we're going to be doing from the state perspective is there will be experts in export compliance, trade compliance and regulation seated in areas across the state to support small, medium, and large businesses who need to understand better what is that web that I'm getting into as I look at exporting my products. And part of that was, at first, the concept with the administration was maybe Tennessee businesses don't know about the opportunity. And then it was realized that Tennessee businesses want to engage in the opportunity, but they need somebody to facilitate the knowledge base and help them get to the right person, to the right service provider, to the federal agency that provides that support. And so again, getting back to McKee Foods, for the trade piece, it really was when we looked at the work in Beijing, wow, commercial services has a great opportunity there for them, and who's going to hold the hand in a year, in 5 years? It's going to be the federal government. And so it's really that interagency cooperation, collaboration, and again, utilizing the best resources. So we've been happy to work with companies like McKee, like Jack Daniels, like Jackson Kayaks, all across the board in our efforts to promote Tennessee products.
Next, I'd like to ask Mr. Ju a question. Can you tell us a little bit about what some of the main attractions were for investing in Chattanooga and what some of the challenges have been for you?
Thank you. To be honest, this is a business company, right? So I would like to say the first major reason we set up here is business driven. We award the business by the customer, so we need to set up the footprint close to our customer. I think that's a major reason. Then if you ask about why we pick Chattanooga, because close to our company. Meanwhile, we appreciate the overall tax intensive package that Tennessee State and Chattanooga government provide to us. That's very, very important. Yeah. And then talk about the challenge. I honestly talked to Charles already. It's really, currently it's really hard for us to find some manufacturing talent in this region. Yeah. So we try to work with the chamber, education, and some Chattanooga State try to set up some job fair, yeah, to help us to find some talent. That's a major challenge, I think.
As an addendum to that question, for the students that are here in the audience, what can the students study to get themselves ready to fill your talent needs?
That's a good question. I would like to say how to enhance some manufacturing education in the college or in the university. That's very important. Yeah, we found in this area there's some lack of this kind of manufacturing education. Yeah. Then, of course, if you learn Chinese, that's a big advantage.
Leslie, did you want to add?
And to speak to that as well, we wear many hats at my agency. So you all may be familiar with the Tennessee Promise, which is a program for 2 years of free VOTEC, vocational technical education for students before they move on, but also to transition our older workforce, I can say that, I'm in my 40s, to transition our older workforce to the new technologies and the new opportunities that are being provided. So we have an entire arm of the government now looking at what curriculum does what business needs so that the students get an education that's going to give them a job, not just something that's interesting to study, but also that workforce piece so that we can continue to bring interesting businesses to Tennessee and have them continue to invest in our communities and economic prosperity.
Thanks. Lulu, are you in here? Would you like to make a comment on Chattanooga State's training programs?
Well, Chattanooga State. So my day job actually is workforce development at Chattanooga State. So we have been fortunate enough to be the training providers when Volkswagen came in, Wacker Institute, and all of those are technical jobs. So Chattanooga State is actually founded due to the needs of TEA. So our first program was to support the energy industry. But some of those type of skills translate to other manufacturing sectors as well. So we have quite a bit of experience training in that space. So hopefully we can support ANFANG as they move forward, as we have done for other groups. So there are 19 engineering technology programs, and all of those programs have an articulation with UTC Engineering. So those are the type of career progression we hope to provide.
Thanks, Lulu. This is a good example of why an event like this is important to have, because you can get different people with different expertise all in the room to share information that maybe they didn't even know was out there, and it's a way to connect and get things done. So thanks, Lou and Leslie and Colm. Shift gears a little bit back to Charles. You talked in your presentation about Chattanooga being a welcoming community, and Chattanooga has many Chinese business visitors that pass through the city each year on business trips, for training at Chattanooga State, or for other purposes. What kind of welcome services does the Chamber provide for business visitors? And how can local companies that are receiving these visitors request such services if possible? And what, how can these companies make sure that their Chinese visitors are as welcome to the city as possible?
We do have, it's kind of interesting for a city our size, how many, not just Chinese, but international visitors we have in the community. And so, actually, both schools that are represented here have pretty significant populations of Chinese students, which creates a direct tie, back to China. And so I think one thing I would say is that creates a lot of opportunity. I think for us, it creates a lot of opportunity to learn, take advantage of it. Just because you don't know them doesn't mean you shouldn't talk to them. So that's my advice to you guys. Also study engineering. So that'd be, Chris and I were saying engineering. So I think first of all is make sure that, you spend time talking to people. And I think that having, the more dialogue we have, the better with the people that come in. The second thing I'd say is, put them in touch with us, right? The chamber, we spend a lot of time and honors around here somewhere out there, and I know Sandra's here and a couple others, and Catherine's in the back of the room. We spend a lot of time working with people, and we really, frankly, don't care if they're from, California, New York, Shanghai, Wolfsburg. It doesn't matter, right? We spend a lot of time meeting with people from other places and telling them about Chattanooga. That's what we get paid to do. And so we're always excited when there's an opportunity to do that. And one of the things that we can help with, and we're particularly good at, is connecting people. And so Tom and I were talking a little bit earlier about that workforce piece. And so one of the things that we do for companies when they come in is if they're recruiting somebody who's top talent, right, who's going to be coming from somewhere else to work here. So senior engineer, vice president of finance, whatever it is, they're going to have a trailing spouse, right? A husband or a wife who's going to have to move to Chattanooga, right? Maybe not at their own will. And so we want to make it easy for them. And one of the ways you make it easy for them is you help them find a job. And so that's one of the things that the chamber does. We can't do it for everybody. If 300 people get a job there, we can't help 300 other people go find a job somewhere else. But if they're key customers that have really strong talent and are very important to a company, we want to make sure that they can leverage our network to try and find other opportunities for their spouses. And so that's something that you're probably not going to get in Atlanta, right? When you're in a big metro, it's really hard to do that. But in a smaller community, we have a great network. I can send out one email to 10 HR directors at different companies from the insurance sector, the technology sector, the logistics sector, the manufacturing sector, food processing, and I guarantee you there's going to be an opportunity there. It may not be exactly what they want, but it's a great way to kind of plug in. So reach out to us if they say, you know what, they want to come to, they're going to be here for 24 hours. What should they do? We write itineraries for people, right? So we do all kinds of things like that to help plug people in. I want to dovetail into one other thing, because at a national level, there's a lot of discussion about immigration and China and things like that. And so this would be kind of my other push, is that this country was founded on people coming here from lots of other places. And Chattanooga has a history after the Civil War of being very welcoming of people coming from other places. There's a legacy here of that welcoming environment. And we're not necessarily all going to agree, right? We have different philosophies and different theories and different cultures that we bring to the table. But we work well together. And so don't lose that spirit, would kind of be the last thing I'd bring up.
That's great. A great note to end the moderated part of the Q&A. I wanted to, as part of the welcoming spirit of Chattanooga and this event, we want to make sure that everyone has the opportunity to ask questions. This is the start of a dialogue on how we can strengthen the Chattanooga-China relationship. And we'll begin with your questions, and then hopefully after this event, we'll continue those conversations every day going forward. So who would like to ask a first question?
I'm curious, is McKee Food, I'm Helen Hickson. I'm a realtor. I do commercial and residential real estate with Weikert Yerby Realtors. Do you envision having internship opportunities so that students from China could come and intern with McKee? And do you also envision in the future having an agricultural program perhaps where you buy from Chinese producers. I know I eat Sunbelt and I consume a lot of oatmeal indirectly through all your products, even though I don't like sweets. But do you see that you will develop an agricultural program where eventually you will buy from producers there and have a manufacturing plant there?
Good question.
3 questions.
Okay.
Wow, what great ideas.
I think
there's some potential for sister city connections there too.
I think I can answer them fairly quickly. The internship, we have a pretty robust internship program at McKee. We have at least 4 openings in my department alone right now. We toyed around with someone in food science from China. We didn't post that position, but I don't envision a lot of internships. I mean, Raymond's been helping us. He started out as an intern. He's not an intern now. He's a graduate research student at Southern Adventist University. But so I don't envision a lot of international internships. Maybe one, and maybe one in food science, because of the cuisine issue. As far as agriculture goes, we do bring ingredients in from all over the world, but they tend to be specialty ingredients. Like, you know, we're going to get pineapples from Hawaii, and we're going to get coconut from some of the tropical countries. We tend to want to bring our grains in from local sources. The oats are produced in the northern central United States and southern Canada. I know China has a great oat producing region, but it wouldn't make any sense to transport those across the sea. So I don't see any changes in our sourcing of ingredients.
Who else would I like to ask a question?
Yes, another question for Mr. King. Recently, Chinese people, my perception anyway, I've lived in China for a long time, is that they really they're willing to pay a premium for Western goods, no matter what it is. Even if it's made in China, it's got a Western name on it, they're willing to pay extra for it. This perception there of high quality. Some of the things recently that have been in the news and affects the food business especially was this recent thing with salmonella in peanut butter. And also the recent thing that happened with Volkswagen, which doesn't really tie into this. But what I see is that there's an integrity issue that I haven't seen before in Western manufacturing and foodstuffs. And I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges that exporters to China are going to have to face. If the perception is we're no different than other issues that occur around the world, how are we going to address that? And I don't expect an answer to that. I see it as a challenge for people trying to do business in China.
Can you also state your name and affiliation, just so we can?
Okay. My name is Cliff Kinley, and we own a business in Shanghai, and we've been doing business in Shanghai for 15 years. I don't know if you want to comment.
I think you've made an excellent point, because our advantage for taking this product and shipping it all that way and increasing the cost is integrity. That's our advantage as a Western brand. And so yes, if U.S. food manufacturers slip, then there is no competitive advantage. And if McKee Foods slips, there is no competitive advantage. So I agree.
Next question?
This is not really a question, but it's just a comment. I want to, on the behalf of the Chinese community in Chattanooga, with my friend Jing Lau and Raymond Neal, to welcome Mr. Zhu.
Thank you.
Welcome to Chattanooga. We don't have a very big Chinese community here, but we have a very active Chinese community here, and we do a lot of celebration for Chinese culture, including this coming, as you mentioned, about the Middle Autumn Festival, 中秋节, and we'll welcome you to attend our party, which will be at this Sunday. We'll send you the information. Anyhow, I have been living in Chattanooga for 20 years. Mr. Wood said, it is a wonderful city with a global and international spirit. And we work together with different nationality and different races. I really hope you have a great success in your business in Chattanooga. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we also want to welcome these two gentlemen from an innovative company. 就欢迎你们到查腾路站来。
Who else would like to ask a question?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jean Lau. I'm a high school teacher with Bader School. Thank you for giving me this opportunity and also invite my students coming to this wonderful event. My question is for all the business leaders sitting in this room. As we all know, Macaulay and Baylor, we are the first schools and also so far the only schools in our region offering Chinese language. So for the group of wonderful young people, intelligent resource we have here, after they finish their training with our schools, as they move on to different colleges and universities, I wonder in the future how our business entities here in this region can provide some opportunity to bring back these wonderful young people. So because their roots are still here. So they got their most important training for the 13 years here in this city. So how can we create more opportunities to attract them back?
Thank you, that's a good question. So Chattanooga is one of the few places I've ever seen that, 30 years ago, we replaced all, our kids left, they didn't come back, maybe for Christmas, right? And so today, we become a community where not only do our kids come back when they finish, but other people's kids are coming here, right? We're stealing them from somewhere else, which is a really good opportunity. So here's what I tell you guys is, Chris and I said engineering. The other thing is entrepreneurship. Even if you're going to go work for a company like McKee, right? They're our largest manufacturer. So, and I tell all our automotive suppliers that, and they always get shocked when I tell them. Volkswagen is not our largest manufacturer, and they got a few hundred to go before they're there. But look at entrepreneurship and spend time thinking about that, because that creative aspect is what companies like McKee and Fenn and many others look for. And then as you're finishing up school, come back and pay attention. Read the paper, see what's going on, because the activity level here is tremendous. It's unlike anything that we've seen from the Chamber's history, probably in the last 2 decades. We have a higher startup percentage than any place in the state right now in Chattanooga as far as new companies being formed. So there's lots of activity from that side of things. We've seen more job growth probably than any time in our history since the heyday of Dynamo Dixie, right, back when your grandparents were here. And so there's a lot of activity that's happening right now at all levels. We've got Google Ventures is invested in a startup company here. We've got McKee, which is growing like crazy. And this is a family bakery is what they tout themselves as. I'd say that's a little modest. And then we've got great global brands that are here, right? So certainly, from the chamber side of things, and I think our business side of things, we're doing everything we can to build that base. And we've had two Indian companies do big investments here, Mahindra and Sun Pharma. These are two of the biggest Indian companies that exist. They're growing. Santa Fe, which did an acquisition of Chatham, they're continuing to grow, right? So this is pharmaceuticals. This isn't heavy equipment. So there's a lot of activity here. So what I'd say is go off, learn great things, do great things, and then bring it back here.
We're running a little short on time, and we want to make sure there's time after this for people to network and meet each other. Is there one last question? Yay, students.
This kind of goes off what Mr. Wood said, is that on like an international scale, for students who want to go work for Chinese companies, how do traditional Chinese like the Guanxi business practices influence those kind of relationships, and how easy is it for those students to find internships or jobs in companies in Beijing, Qingdao, like exporters like that?
I'd say, Tom, can you speak first maybe on that, and then I can follow up? Okay.
First, I would like to say Yanfeng globally always open for talent. Wherever you say, United States or China, if you look at China, we have a lot of bases in China. Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, we all have plants over there. Yeah. Welcome anytime. Yeah. Then, if you talk about detail for your education, yeah, I think except for you learn some Chinese and do some internship in some kind of similar Chinese company, will be benefit for you get a job in Qingdao, China, yeah, or Shanghai or Beijing. And try to be thinking more globally, because I think that China now do need some global talent.
Hey, this is all high school students, I'm guessing, but what grades are you guys in? Seniors and juniors, okay. So, now's the time to make the big choice. So here's what I would say. Where the program you pick, not necessarily the university, although university matter, right? I mean, so Thunderbird School of Business, huge international business program. But pay attention to the programs you pick and where their kids go when they graduate, what their alumni relationships are. Ask about that. And if you ask, you'll immediately move up their list, by the way, because the fact that you're even thinking about that is impressive. But the second piece is look for global companies that you may already have connections to, especially with the two. You guys have huge opportunity because the schools you go to. I mean, not everybody gets that. So take advantage of it, because you've already got existing relationships. Work in those businesses. If you don't work, it's going to be very hard. I don't care what school you go to. If you haven't already spent time working in companies, I don't care if you're Sweden or Florida. Spend time doing that, and then language. I think, quite frankly, if I had somebody who was a fluent German speaker, Volkswagen would hire them no matter what their skills were. Because you can talk to them, right? This is a huge thing. So if you have strong language skills in another language, which, by the way, Americans are terrible at, right? I mean, most international cultures are very forgiving of us, and I'm astounded by it, because if I go to Europe and I get a gelato, the guy can speak to me in 5 different languages who's serving me gelato. Not the guy I'm negotiating with on a contract, right, for a multi-million-dollar project. So the language piece is critical. You could be a philosophy major and be fluent in Chinese, you'll probably get a job. Or you can be an engineer and only speak English and get a job. Everything in the middle.
I just gotta say, I disagree with that. I can speak Virginian and Mississippian.
Just add to that, I'm actually currently serve at the China Chinese Association. We do have a Chinese school every Sunday at China State. So if anyone, I mean, it's particular for the kids, but anyone who wants to learn Chinese, come talk to me. Or go talk to Jen. We'll also serve at the board. Thank you.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. There's so many resources out there, and I think an event like this really brings that to the table, as Elizabeth was saying, an opportunity for everyone in the room to understand that there's other people thinking similar things, but also holding resources like TFLI. They are the place to go to if you want to learn more about what's out there. The state is another place you can come to and ask questions. You know, there are international groups, there are international trade shows that McKee has taken advantage of. The reason that Tom is here. And so we're looking at hosting actually the International Education as an academic society that helps students go abroad into a certified institution to study and to get an internship. So that's probably going to be in Middle Tennessee, but it'll be in 2017. But so those are just the little things out there where you look at what is the whole idea, how can we learn more, how can we get to where we want to be. And so a panel like this gives us that opportunity to share information. So thank you, Elizabeth.
I'm honored to be able to be up here with you all today. I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you all are busy. Just one other thing on the student question. Tennessee China Network has internships, and we also have volunteer opportunities. So feel free to check in with me after the event. We can talk more about that. And if anyone has any Tennessee China related questions, at any time, feel free to give me an email and I'll put my cards out on the table. I'll pass it now over to Yvette to close the event.
Well, hello, how exciting. It's a great morning. I thank everyone for being here, the panelists, all of you, the support for the International Business Council and the Chamber, of course. On my day job, I promote exports, I promote international trade, and this just makes my job so much easier to see the support that Chattanooga has for a global economy, and thank you for being here. Closing, I need your help. I'm also the VP of Communications. I'm not all great on social media, so if you don't mind going to our Facebook and our Twitter and liking it, if anybody has wonderful pictures, if you want to post them and do all the fun stuff that social media helps us also connect. So International Business Council, like our page. And we have upcoming events. Our next meeting will now focus on Germany. That's going to be next month. We're going to be here again, a morning get-together for networking at 8 a.m. So mark that on your calendar so we can, again, exchange ideas and collaborate on that. And then we have our French American Chamber, the Beaujolais Nouveau, which will be November 19th at 7 p.m. Okay. Introduction to importing, the SBDC, which is my organization. November 19th, we're going to have a 2-hour seminar on importing, and then a 2-hour seminar after that on how to export. So you can do a full 4-hour, or you can do 2 different seminars. We have speakers from Nashville join us, so we're excited to share the knowledge there as well, and we have experienced companies in this room, which I know we do. Please come in and support that as well. And with that, a big thank you, and that gives us enough time to network and continue to collaborate. Yes?
I just want to say that each one of you has on tables a survey.
All right, yes, there's a survey. Sorry, Anton, yes, there's a survey on the table. We really would appreciate to get those back, to get your input and make sure that we continue to grow the International Business Council and get to learn what your needs are. And again, thank you all and have a great day.